been of the view that CMOs, big-time CMOs, increasingly need to understand technology, and because they have to get closer to it. Some of them, they have to have relationships directly, and they simply just have to understand it. And so we thought we would have a session where we brought a big-name CMO. We're calling this session Tech and the Modern CMO. We're going to welcome up Drew Panayiotou of Pfizer, and to interview him, one of my favorite impresarios, Mr. Michael Kassan of MediaLink. Come on up.
Thank you, Terry. And having you call me an impresario makes me feel really good, because that's how I think of you, Terry. The comic banker, and there's nothing funny about what you do. Drew.
Michael.
Welcome.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. Drew, you joined Pfizer last fall as the company's first global chief marketing officer. Considering the importance of Pfizer in all of our lives, there's great weight given to the role you've gotten, because again, that role never existed at Pfizer. And if you kind of peel back Pfizer's mission to create and deliver world-changing breakthroughs, what role do you, in this new role for you, it's 8 months, I guess, feels like 8 years, I'm sure. Yeah. What role do you envision marketing playing in this transformation? We're going to come back to that word, but you know, first global chief marketing officer, a house of brands, the size and scope and shape of Pfizer. What got you excited, and what do you see on this journey as you've begun it?
Sure. It's rare to have transformations at this scale, and so I joined Pfizer as part of the company's transformation to do things differently. Clearly, we all saw that at COVID, but the company has been rethinking how it goes to market through all of its functions, and the marketing was on that list, and the marketing transformation very much is about connecting with patients and doctors, given the explosion in data and content around healthcare. One of the things that I saw at Google, I was at Google before Pfizer, when it comes to data and information, healthcare generates 30% of all the world's data. The volume of data, 30% resides in healthcare, and it's continuing to explode. So how you communicate and connect with doctors and patients in this industry is changing like never before.
So Drew, you've had an interesting career arc in terms of your experience. J&J, Coca-Cola, the Walt Disney Company, Google, you know, packaged goods, entertainment, pharma. Interesting. Yeah. Are there links between the two? I mean, there's nothing Mickey Mouse about what you do today. Come on, that was good, guys. That was, you know.
Yes.
Well, not that good.
Yes.
Not with Terry in the room.
Yeah, you know, I think being a large scale CMO is very much the same, whether it's Disney, Coca-Cola, or Pfizer. You're dealing with the same issues. You know, how do you work in a matrix environment? How do you get the most out of sophisticated and complex, you know, agency relationships? How do you recruit talent at scale and work globally? You know, Pfizer, I was mentioning this yesterday in an interview. You know, when I was at Coca-Cola, you know, we would talk about, you know, how do we connect people in Zimbabwe to our product? How do we, you know, do business in Barcelona? Pfizer is very similar in that, you know, our breakthrough products and our drugs and medicines go all around the world. So we talk about, you know, how do we get our medicines to people in, you know, in Africa, New York City. It's that kind of scale which has the same marketing challenges and go to market.
So Drew, I want to step back for a moment. Around 10 years ago, we worked with Salesforce when they began the journey that they started into the Marketing Cloud. Mm-hmm. And a challenge that was posited by Mark Benioff was, how do I take the Salesforce of Salesforce and educate them relative to selling into the marketing cloud. Because traditionally at a company like Salesforce, they were built as a cloud computing company, and so the question I always ask is, who's your buyer? Well, in that case, it would have been the CTO or the CIO. As they explored the marketing cloud, they realized that they needed the buyer to potentially be the CMO, and so they needed to re-educate. And what we said back then, and I've continued to believe this, the modern day CMO and the modern day CTO or CIO, and I don't mean chief talent, I mean chief technology officers, are singing from the same song sheet more than they ever did. And it was actually Coca-Cola back in the day and Unilever, when we did some of the earliest digital journeys that MediaLink put together, who brought their CIO on those journeys. And people said, gee, why are you bringing the CT or CIO on a marketing journey, on a digital journey? And the answer we landed on was, today, the chief marketing officer, then and now even more, is involved with deciding on things that are more technology focused than ever before. And the chief technology officers are correspondingly having to make decisions about things that would normally have been in the purview of the marketer. So, we made a joke back then, which I think still works. The person with the pocket protector is now the same person with the pocket square. And, finding that balance of, your role. So there is a question here, I promise. I've set the stage, I hope, by saying, back in October, I was interviewed on a topic which I found so interesting, which was, what does the CEO not know about the role of the CMO? So it was posited in the negative. And I'm curious, you've got a very famous CEO in Albert Bourla, and we all got to know him, certainly, or thankful, during the pandemic. He became a celebrity CEO, not just a CEO. What do you think Albert doesn't know about your job, what you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's two things. One, you highlighted it, which is an effective CMO has to be, digital, by design. And I always say this, I'm a CMO that codes in Python. I have my own GitHub account. And when I was interviewing at Pfizer, our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer, she was relieved. She's like, oh, you're a CMO that actually speaks my language. You understand code. You understand how to write algorithms. I write very crappy algorithms, but I know how to write them. I would not trust mine. But I think that relationship and the fact that CMOs really have to understand tech, I think that is probably something the CEOs are starting to kind of understand, but I don't think they understand yet really how that CMO needs to understand that subject matter content. We have to be able to talk about clean data rooms. We have to talk about Snowflake and how we move data around the cloud. A CMO is not about just producing advertising. That being said, I think the other thing that CEOs don't know is how important it is for a CMO to literally be an inspiration around creativity. Creativity is a business multiplier. Creativity is an economic multiplier. And if you don't have the talent that thinks creatively around technology and business, it's tough to break through. And so I think those two things are still things CEOs don't quite understand about this odd thing called the CMO.
And sometimes when you look at the job descriptions of CMOs, our title of this session is Tech and the Modern CMO. When you look at the job descriptions of CMOs, because we get to look at those occasionally as well, sometimes it's Chief Marketing and Growth Officer. Sometimes it's Chief Marketing, less often, and Product. Sometimes it's Chief Marketing and Communications. When you've got growth, or particularly growth, and I think this is an important note for everybody, not just CMOs, do you feel that, in your case, but in general, do you think CMOs who get that growth responsibility get their hands on the levers that can drive the growth?
Yes.
Or are you kind of the old, responsibility and authority, problem? Do I have the responsibility without the authority? Because then if I don't have those levers, I don't have the authority to be able to deliver on the responsibility you've given me.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think the CMO, the most effective CMOs and the CMO of the future is the Chief Growth Officer. And in this role, I always say this, my title's a bit, it's not as accurate because I have responsibility for helping our sales teams and our sales force become more effective. And so I think sometimes we put marketing in a box, and more and more in every business, it's the sales teams are part of that customer journey, and the channels of which you go to market are important parts of growth. So at Coke, like, you really did have to figure out how you do business at Walmart. In our case at Pfizer, retail health is a thing after COVID. So you really need to understand how you do business with CVS and Walgreens. And so, and that is in part, covering some of the sales functions of the company. And so to me, Chief Growth Officer is probably a more accurate title. And then we have to talk about—
Because are the KPIs you're measured against, in your own world of compensation and remuneration, I'm presuming growth is something that figures into that.
Yes, 100%. And then performance marketing. I think performance marketing, is still a mystery to some of the CEOs of large companies. I mean, it's becoming so vital. You have to know how to have your hands on the wheel in terms of driving performance of campaigns. And the tools that we have today are light speed different than they were 3 years ago even.
Well, and Drew, you and I talked about this many months ago. We were fortunate to make up a word. I think we made it up, but we protected it anyway at MediaLink, and that word was brandformance. Because what I started to hear was traditional brand thinking merging more and more, as it should, with performance thinking, if you will. And one very smart CMO said to me, why do I have a performance marketing unit and a brand marketing unit? Why couldn't I have one? And I looked at that person and I said, you mean brandformance? And she said, is that a word? I said, it is now. And we've been using it, and that's exactly it. Why should we not be utilizing the same data and insights that we can generate or do generate in performance marketing, as it would be traditionally called? When I grew up, it was direct response, but it's the same difference. That call to action is important, but shouldn't we be infusing brand marketing with the same discipline and the same data and the same insights that we have?
Yeah.
I would say yes, but
100%. I think for anyone that has to, work with or call on a CMO, integrated marketing is still really important to driving ROI, and being able to drive and link the funnel through all the different media channels, both first party, third party, to drive performance is the thing. And I think we've forgotten the word integrated marketing. And so performance marketing linked to integrated campaigns is what has the biggest ROI pretty much across industry, whether it's soft drinks or pharmaceuticals.
It's interesting. The concept of integrated marketing was very courant, and you're right. You don't hear that very often anymore. Yet we're all striving for it, but I guess we're calling it something different. I don't know what we're calling it now. Anybody know what we're calling it now? If we're not calling it that, I don't know. Okay. Just make shit up. It's okay. You can answer that question any way you like.
Yeah.
Drew, what I'd love to do is play word association with you if I could.
All right.
And I'm going to...
The game show of Michael Kassan.
There you
Love
go. It's actually something I've started to talk about frequently in the market, so I apologize for those who've heard it before, but it's first impression for you, so
I love it.
I'd love to let you run with it. I came up with a bunch of words that I've designated now as MediaLink's T's and C's, and they're thought starters, as I look at it, because I think we all have some responsibility to start conversations. And so I took it seriously and wrote down these words, and I'm going to just play them with you, and you can respond to any of them you want. The T words are trust, transparency, talent, technology, and transformation. The C words, you have to memorize some of these. I'll come back to you. The C words are content, commerce, culture, creativity, community, and curation. And again, I apologize for those who've heard them before, but they haven't heard your response to any of those words, so this is fresh.
Yeah, you know, when I think of the T's, trust and transparency, I think is so important and critical in two ways. One, I think we really have to think about, you know, trust in a world of more personalized experiences that we want to deliver for people. I think the word personalized very much is kind of misused today to think about targeting. No one wants to be targeted. And targeting doesn't feel good. It's really about how do I deliver a personal experience and to get permission to go deeper in that relationship with someone. We talk a lot about ChatGPT. So when it comes to healthcare, it is a thing that is accelerating really quickly. So there was a study that was released that said ChatGPT answers questions better than a doctor, and ChatGPT is more empathetic, right? And so think about that.
It gives a whole new meaning to bedside manner.
It does. It does. It was widely publicized on Wall Street Journal, CNN, and you know. And I say this: our ability to live in a world of ChatGPT is thinking about how do we go beyond somebody asking a question and making it more personalized and relevant in terms of the response. In order to do that, you really have to know something about someone and have their permission and engagement to figure out how do I take all this great stuff from generative AI and put it in service of that person. To me, that's a personalized experience. That's not targeting, it's not personalization as we call it today, and to me that's the breakthrough. We have to stop using the word targeting.
Yeah, it's interesting because years ago, Drew, as addressable advertising became more available, I was asked the question frequently, did I think marketers would be willing to pay a premium for targeted, you know, one-to-one marketing? And I said, well, I'm not sure I would characterize it as a premium, because if I'm a marketer and you can guarantee me that I'm going to reach the right person with the message, then I think I'm paying fair value. I'm not actually paying a premium.
Yeah.
So, because it wasn't about targeting, it was about connecting.
Yes, and you're right, it's not the right message, it's the right experience.
Right.
And generative AI technology will create a great experience, but it is you're having a conversation. It's not.
You know, I have to interrupt because I saw something on social media yesterday that really caught my eye. Somebody, could be somebody that was in this room, I don't remember, but it was somebody I knew, obviously, because it was on an Instagram feed. And their child had graduated, and obviously we're in the season, so you see a lot of graduation, congratulations online. And there was a note to the child, and it was really nice. And then there was a break, and then it said, that was ChatGPT. Here's my message to my kid. They were both nice, but the personal one was more personal.
Yes.
But it just, apropos of nothing. It was
well, I
just
think
so
my wife may prefer the ChatGPT answer. So when I come home, maybe more empathetic. But here, I'll let you give me a C, and I'll answer something on the C side.
Well,
choose any one of the C's.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I begin it with content and commerce, I don't hear commerce very often in conversation any longer, not modified by content. If you want to create commerce, you're going to use content in some fashion.
Right. Yeah.
So I would throw those two words, or you can pick culture, creativity, community, or curation. So
yeah, I think,
choose your C.
Well, it's funny. I do think content and commerce are very linked, and but for me, the most important word is community. Still, like people, need to connect to others on a local basis to really, drive your business. I'd say this in healthcare. Healthcare is local. Healthcare is Brooklyn. Healthcare is South Atlanta. There's no U.S. healthcare, message. It's about how do you connect in a community and make things high touch and high tech. And that to me is still the magic. It's like, how do people, in high touch experiences connect to technology? And how do you put high tech and high touch together? I saw it at Google. I see it at Pfizer every day. That's kind of the holy grail.
Well, Drew, it's rare we're going to be on time, but the clock is at at zero. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of topics that are interesting to this audience, but I am certain that there was a good learning from listening to you and the journey you're on. And I want to thank you for spending the time this morning, and I want to thank all of you for your attention. I don't know if we've got time for a couple of questions or if we should. Terry? I guess not.
All right, very good. Thank you all. Nice to see everyone.